Hi everybody, Giselle Grenier here from artplace.ca. We are so close. We're at the end of the book of backgrounds, and this was quite the journey. 52 backgrounds. By the time this is finished, we're going to have completed. In this particular video, we're working on the inside back cover. I had changed my mind over the last 2-3 videos on what I was going to do with the back covers, and as I was flipping through the pages, I started seeing a theme. Change my mind, which as an artist you're allowed to do. So inside back cover, and there's a lot going on. I did do some pre-planning with this because I had to lay out a composition, and I did a whole bunch of sketches what I wanted to do, because the inside front cover I'm going to be using to write some notes on the start of the process. And then the inside back cover, I'm going to be writing some notes onto what I've experienced. And the way that I'm going to do this, this actually could be used as a full finished journal page, except the notes will be done at the end. And my idea is to have the design with a theme of growth and exploration and the things that I did. And then how I'm going to do it is think of little flowers with circles, and then I can write individual little thoughts in there. So there's a lot going on, so this is going to be a longer than normal video. I'm going to be using the Americana Decor Stencil iCap Polka Dot, which is distressed circles. That'll be for my flowers. And I'm going to be using 3 different types of Americana decoupage paper. The text, the blueprint of the ships, and the music paper. And to prep, gesso, and then here we go, one shot. The the Deco Art Media Fluid Acrylics, Titan Buff, Translucent White, Cobalt Teal Hue, Green Gold, Cobalt Turquoise Hue, and Sap Green. I may bring out some others, I don't know. I'll have to let the page tell me how I go. And the decoupaging will be done with the decoupage medium, the matte finish. This has already been gessoed, and I did a demonstration in the previous video. And so there really is no need to gesso this again. If you didn't have the paper and you wanted more texture, you can go ahead with the gesso and scrape it on. That's no problem. Okay, so you can do that. And this is going to be the outside back cover on this one here, which has been done quite smoothly. First thing we're going to do is we're going to decoupage our papers. Now this here, so I'm using Vintage Silhouette, Ship to Shore, and Victorian Romance. And we don't want anything perfect. We want random pieces. And I'm using the text, and that's perfect here. So I'm going to hold this out because I don't know if I'm going to need all of this, and I'm not going to be using this one, so put that aside. And I need, this is a new package, music paper. I want the music paper. There is text on here, which might work better for the bottom. No. I need translucency. I could fussy cut these little scissors. Fussy cut with little scissors, the flowers, but nope. Don't want a music paper, and then the blueprint of the ships. This is a little bit dark, so I will have to push that back. Okay, so let's see. So I'm going to be working this in the sky area. Oh, okay. I'll use this maybe. It's just to get some texture in there. I like this better. So let me think. So what I want to do is I can use this piece right to here, And I want to get a rough tear. Like that. So that'll sit here. I could still use these pieces if I wanted to. I'm thinking dark to light, then the green dark to light, and then there's going to be a mix roughly in the middle. But I'm still going to hang on to these just in case. And you can even overlap if you want. And the music paper, I'm going to tear into little pieces. That aside, that's probably very loud. And then the text script. So we don't waste. Let's use some music paper in the corners, where the corners are. So this is taking a little bit of planning. And I can do that. And I can do that. Oh, let's see. Oh, like that. And I could put some music paper there. Overlap. So all we're doing is just putting some texture. If you have stamped tissue, go ahead and use that. I have stamped tissue. But because I'm going to be doing some writing on this, I didn't want the heavy wrinkles. So let's get that in there. So it's just a matter of just kind of moving stuff around to overlap, because we're going to be pushing a lot of this back. And over top. I really like that one. Maybe I should use that there. I really like this one. Music. Let's see, this is the really light area, so what do I have that I can use? Something. Oh, I haven't used this stuff yet. So I can put text. There we go. Looks really busy. You're not going to see most of it. It's going to be so far in the background. What do I do now? I know I'm going to mess up the order of this. Does it matter? Not really. Not really. Actually, I wonder if this will work. Yeah, sort of. Sort of. It doesn't matter. All right. So I'm going to pour this right on top. And I'm using a 1-inch glaze brush. This is a Royal Aquilon brush. Making sure I have coverage everywhere. Because there's some texture in there, I got to make sure that this sinks into all the crevices. I also want my paper to be movable. Get it everywhere. raise that up a little bit. And then does it matter if the paper is crooked? Nope. Not at all. I should use my fingers. There's a lot of gesso. There's a big gesso bump right here. I'm using this opportunity to see exactly where the bumps are. There's a gesso bump right there because this is where I'm going to have to think about placing my pieces. I'm going to do that right on top. So now I've got a little bit of texture right there. And let's see, this was on the bottom. And although this paper, you can really flatten it out so it doesn't wrinkle. I don't mind the wrinkles. The tissue is going to be a bit much if I wanted to do some writing. But again, I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do that yet. So I'm not worried about it. And with a good thick layer of the decoupage medium, because everything I'm going to be doing is transparent, it's going to allow more light to pass through. So it's going to be very, very rich in color. And then, oops, I screwed that one up. That goes underneath. That can go on top. This is already drying. Holy cow. Okay, because now I can't lift that up, let me think. So I'm going to start tearing some edges now. So we have that there. Love the transparency of this. Love the transparency. I think that was here. I don't remember. And if you have the time, I don't because I'm very limited on time. You can, that wasn't, next, shoot. You can let your layers dry in between. I'm not going to. Yeah, see, I did this in the wrong order. Oh, well. Joe's going to say, you didn't dry fit. Yeah, but you can let each layer dry if you want. I'm not worried about it. Something different. Music, text. Oh, where's that piece that I really liked? The unfortunate thing is that this is going to be lost. I really like that text. Most of this is going to be invisible. And this is also a great way of building up texture on your page and for thickening it up. So if you're working on a really, really thin substrate, that's a really good way of doing it. Remember, this is going to be just barely visible. So don't get all worked up about it if it doesn't line up. I want strips going the other way. I don't like hard edges. That's just me. I'm just going to create strips now. music paper. Actually, let's do the music paper this way, because that's not the way music paper is supposed to go. Overlap that. Like I said, I know this is going to be a little bit of a longer video, but there's a lot of work involved in this one. We have one little spot here, which doesn't really matter. No, that doesn't matter. Okay, let me break up that edge of some of that. No, I'm going to leave that. That's too much. Need to break that up. The printed papers, like the tissue, like I did a video on creating your own tissue paper. You could use that, but just do it on standard paper, and that will give you totally unique designs that are custom to you. Remember, you're not going to see a lot of this. So just use scraps of whatever you have. There we go. And I'm going to do one strip at the top. Upside down, doesn't matter, doesn't matter. There's a big gesso bump there. Yeah, there's a big gesso bump right there. All right. So when you let that dry, apply another layer on top, because we're going to be putting some gesso. So I'm doing this wet. You let yours dry. It's going to dry completely transparent. And then what we're going to do is we're going to push this back with some Titan Buff mixed in with a little bit of Derelid yellow. And I may use some gesso as well if I find that the translucent buff in the yellow isn't enough. I love the wrinkling here. Make sure I've got everything covered. And the reason why I'm covering everything is because we're going to be doing a lot of rubbing with the paint. I don't want the paper to tear. This will take about an hour to dry. And then once that's dry, then I'll trim the edges of the paper. If they were really overlapped, I could just wrap it over and it'll just create additional texture. All right, so when this is dry, we'll come back. All right, we're back, and I had to put some music on for Mia. So there's music on up here in the background. There's music on downstairs. All the windows are closed because Joe went out, didn't take Mia with him, and she was crying and crying and crying. So it's just me and Mia, and usually when it's just the two of us, well, Chaos is in the background, but Mia usually a little bit more protective, so she's usually quite barky, so hopefully she's going to behave herself. Look how flat this is. See, after it dries, it goes completely flat. It is super smooth. It is not tacky at all. although when I was doing the decoupaging, this is super tacky. The adhesive, the glue, the strength of this is unbelievable. And it took me about 5 minutes to get the stuff off my hands. But this is, I could rub and rub and rub and this is going to be protected. It's as if there's a sheet of glass. This is so protected. And I brought out some extra colors because I was doing this. I'm thinking, oh, I had some other ideas. It's nothing too dramatic. Although we're going to use green gold for the grass, I'm going to create a mix. It's one of my favorite mixes to create a shading for grass with Hansa Yellow Light. No, not Burnt Umber. Raw Umber and Viridian. And the things for where I'm going to do the writing, I brought out the Americana Decor Chalky Finish. This is very easy to write on, so I'm going to use that. And although this works fine, I find that this works with almost any writing tool. And I'm going to be using the Staedtler Lumacolor Permanent Special to do my writing. This is excellent for that. This, it's not too bad, but this works better. Okay. First, we need to set all this stuff into the background. So I'm going to be doing this with Titan Buff and Translucent White. I want some areas to be translucent so we can see through to create some texture, visual texture. But in the case that it's just still too transparent, yeah, I can add additional layers. I also want to experiment using gesso. And I'm going to be putting everything over here because I hate going across. And I brought out the palette to do some color mixing. Because I was editing one of the videos and I saw by accident where I had put the background right into my palette here. And although it doesn't usually bother me when that happens, what was on the back was important. This is Translucent White. Okay, and we'll leave the gesso over here. And for this, I'm going to get, I'm reaching again, I'm going to get a few of these little cloths here. Now the other thing that you can use little cosmetic applicators and you can rub. This will work because this is non-porous now. There's enough tooth to grab the paint, but you can do some blending. So why don't we experiment with that too? You can also apply the paint with that. So, brush. I'm going to use a 3/4 inch glaze brush. Aquilon. I'm going to blot it. And this you do not want wet. So let's try with this first. Translucent White. Oh, it's perfect. It's perfect. Okay, what if we put a little bit of Titan Buff in there? Okay, well, that'll take like a whole 2 seconds to do this. All right. A little bit of Titan Buff with Translucent White is absolutely perfect. Well, let's just do the white. Let's just paint the white. So if I had to, I don't like creating formulas for paint, but if I had to make a mixture, it'd be 2 parts Translucent White to 1 part of the Titan Buff. And although over the white text, it's not too bad because we're going to be making our green. I do want to neutralize this a little bit. This is way in the back. It's just hints. If you don't have any text paper, well, everybody has text paper. You know, phone book. Remember phone books? If you're like really young, you probably don't know what a phone book is. They remember the yellow pages? Remember the big phone books we used to get? Like this thick? You can use a newspaper, visit consignment shops and ask them if there's any books that they have that's destined for a bin. I get lucky with that, where I bought a dictionary that was slated for the bin and I got it, and it makes really good paper. Just quickly show you. Really, really good paper. You know what it would cost to get that? And the book, the dictionary is about this thick. Okay, I'm going to use translucent, just translucent white here. I'm going to have to wipe some of this back. Ooh, I like that. I like that. Oh, I really like that. Look how that's distressed. Ooh. See, if I had not put that coat of the decoupage matte, I keep saying decoupage matte medium. It's not a medium. It's a glue, sealer, and finish all in one. So I apologize if I got an email saying, I can't find decoupage matte medium. It's not. I'm sorry, I call it matte medium. Only because they also have a paper product which is called decoupage paper. And this is decoupage matte glue sealer finish. So it's just they also have this, which is also decoupage paper glue sealer finish. So sometimes I get confused, so I apologize. So if I had not put a layer of the decoupage matte glue sealer finish on this, I wouldn't have been able to rub it out, and on top of that, I may have run the risk of damaging the paper. And by doing the edges as well, although I'm going to create a formal edge on this, you strengthen the seal on the edge too, which is not an issue for us. Okay, as this is drying, you typically would think acrylics as they dry they get darker. Well, you can't. The white actually gets a little bit brighter. And let's go in with a little bit of gesso. I'm going to hit this with the heat gun for like 2 seconds. And I'm going to use a smaller brush. I'm going to use, let's see, number 12 shader. And just trying to pick up some of the texture, because what this is also going to do, when I come in with the layer of the blue for the sky, this area is going to be a bit brighter. And for clouds, look at this. See? The brush is flat. Now, okay, see this area I got a little bit too much? I can just take my kitchen cloth and just blot that out. Voila, done. Even this too, I can just like that. So just a little bit of gesso flat where I want to set some of the text back. I don't want it to be just plain. I don't want people to think of, oh, I see lots of text. So I'm just diffusing everything. And I'm tilting this on a little bit of an angle because I've got a terrible glare. This is going to be fairly dark. I don't want to lose that drawing of the ship. Do you know what else you can do on this? You could stencil the gesso. And this I'm not too worried about because it's going to be fairly dark. That's going to be fairly dark coming down. It's more in the sky and where I'm going to be putting those little stenciled flowers. Because the paints I'm going to be using are all translucent. Love the visual texture. No, this is physical texture. The visual texture is texture you can see. So from this angle I can see bumps and ridges and all here. That's visual. But touching is the physical, and I'm getting both with this. Go as far as you want with this. There really is no wrong way of doing this. I love that. Looks much more natural. Okay, I think we're pretty set. So I've got this part here a little bit lighter, so everything should flow. We'll see. So what we've got the parts of the translucent, oh, I forgot this part here. The translucent white with the Titan buff. And let me just grab some of that. Actually, I can take a little bit of Titan buff and I can just go right here, which will make that bottom edge a little bit darker as well. Because we're coming in with the dark green mix. Just little bits. There we go, like that. Okay. And can I still use this palette? No. For the next step, I cannot have any white in here whatsoever. I am going to dry this here. Like I said, we cannot have any white whatsoever in this because everything now from now on is all glazing. So let's work with the sky. I'm going to get cobalt teal hue. And I may have to darken that a little bit. Now, again, I'm working with the palette here to stop me from putting this into my palette on the side, and only because I have everything everywhere. Although it doesn't really matter on this, I have to try to condition myself to be more aware of where I'm putting my paint. Let's first what? Okay, let's first try with a little cosmetic sponge. I'm going to show you a bunch of different ways for doing this. And we can just start and just use roundy strokes. This is really pretty. Oh my God. But see how transparent that is? Roundy strokes. That's not even a word. God. Roundy strokes. Okay, so you can use this. You can also use this. This one's a little bit harder to use because it's so big, and then you end up what this would come in handy for is the clouds. But that's more of a push like that. I'm going to hold that aside. Do I have another one? No, yeah. I'm going to use another one for the clouds. I'm going to put that one in water. Okay, so we did little round strokes. You can also use a dry kitchen wipe. You can also use a baby wipe if you want. That's fine. I find for really small pieces, sometimes using your finger is a little bit better. And the whole thing with this, it's dry. And I want basically the outside edges to be a little bit darker. And as we work down, it gets a little bit lighter. Okay. So use whatever method you want. Well, how about we use a trusty old paintbrush, and you can use X strokes. If you've been following me and have taken my formal classes, landscape classes, you know what the X stroke is for. I'm going to put out here a speck of cobalt teal hue. That's for the splatter at the end. Just going to mix a bit of that in. Although this isn't a realistic sky, I do still want to follow the making it dark. When you paint a landscape, typically when you look out, this would sort of like be if you look at the straight up, it's darker. Then as you come down and you go down like this and you look to the distance, it's usually lighter and cooler in temperature, grayer. Using a brush keeps your hands a little bit cleaner, and it also allows you to have a smoother finish. The brush has not been dipped in any water. Okay, and you just bring that down. I'm going to go in back with that cosmetic sponge. This is faster. And I'm just going to bring that so light. Start at the top, work down. Don't add any water to this. Unless you're working on something extremely porous, then yeah, you can add water to it, but don't. Because all you'll do is just make a wash, and we're dry brushing right now. Even though we're using an applicator like this, we're still dry brushing. Okay, here's a good thing. Mistake. I came up here and I went like this, and the paint came off because this wasn't dry. This wasn't dry. So now what I have to do is I have to dry that, and then I can come back and put some paint on it. So, big boo-boo, not editing that out. So as you're painting, when you're going back, check to see if it's dry first. And you know what's bad? I know I shouldn't have done this. I teach art, for God's sakes. There's also a big bump there from gesso. There's a big bump. There we go. So that'll bring some nice, I want to diffuse that text a little bit. And just bringing the values down a little bit closer. This is just cobalt turquoise, and yeah, my hand's in the way. Now I'm just kind of roaming around, leaving some white spots in here. And what that's doing is it's creating the impression of clouds. Depending on this part here, if you make it a little bit darker, it looks like mountains. Bring the color up there, see? Make sure you don't have any white edges. This is just a background, but you know, there's and composition is way beyond the scope of this. But typically you don't want anything spotty too close to the edge, otherwise it just draws your eye there. This is a book, so this is going to be inside back cover. So if there was a lot of detail here, it's okay, because the edge of the book, when it's bound, it's going to stop your eye from leaving the book. It's just going to go on to the next page. Okay, put that in water, put that in water. That's actually pretty good. Now we got to repeat the whole thing now with the grass. So, green gold. This is going to take 2 layers for this, and I want to do this one with a stencil brush. Green gold, and I'm using circle strokes, then I go up and down, and what that's going to create is the fuzziness of foliage. And you want to bring it just where it slightly overlaps the blue, because then you get a whole new green. The bottom we're going to be, that's too much paint. The bottom we're going to be going over with a glaze of a custom mix. So this glazing that we're doing, this is layering transparent layers. it allows light to shine through. And if you had the time between each layer of paint, apply a layer of either the DecoArt Media Matte Medium or the Traditions Glazing Medium, layers in between, and that creates, so think of a layer of paint, sheet of glass, layer of paint, sheet of glass, layer of paint, sheet of glass, so on, so on, so on. It allows so much light to shine through, and your painting looks so luminous. It's gorgeous. That's how I create my portraits. I do glazes. There we go. And now let's look at our negative space. We'll make sure we don't have anything straight across. So look at, you know, where you've got some parts where you can break up some of that line. Create some visual texture, create some interest, create some eye flow. So now we've got some interesting things happening. That was way too much paint. I'm going to put that back in. All right, takes care of that. Now, don't really need this to dry. Put that in the water. Don't need this to dry. It'll dry when I make my mix. So I'm going to be creating the mix with Hansa Yellow Light, Raw Umber, and Viridian. Now the DecoArt Media Fluid Acrylics Viridian is not a true Viridian. It's a mix. And the Hansa, these are pure. This is a mix. This is made with phthalo green and a brown. We don't know which brown, but it's made up with a brown. Viridian is the color that I use a lot with landscapes when I need a translucent green, and with portraits as well. You think green in portraits? Yeah, actually green neutralizes pinks in skin. It's also used for olive skin. A little bit of raw umber. And I'm going to palette knife mix this. So I'm going to take the yellow and I'm going to put a little bit of green and a speck of the raw umber to neutralize that. A bit more green. And what we're looking for is a very earthy green. Sap green is not earthy, it's very intense. There we go. And actually I'm going to put this into the color book. Here's my color book. So let's create that mix right here. So just against the white matte finish paper, you'll be able to get an understanding. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. Okay. And if you want to see the true underlying color, you just add a little bit of white to the edge and you'll see the true underlying color of anything that's very, very dark. So we're just going to scumble this on. Scumble just means just to kind of dibby dab. A filbert brush would be really good for this. The only filbert brush I have handy is a stencil brush. And I'm going to do this in layers as well. Now this is going to be a longer video because I'm showing a lot of oh, look at this. A lot of technique. Look at that. So this is what we're looking for. Just bring that up as far as it'll go. to change the brush direction. I don't know if you can hear the music in the background. It's a special track that I have for Mia. Doggy calming music. Doesn't always work. The texture in the background, I should have actually put tissue paper back here because that would have just been, that would have helped with the texture. So see where this area is white? It takes on a completely different color. This is still translucent. It's semi-translucent now because of the addition of the raw umber. And with each layer you apply, you're not going to go over the same area. It becomes more opaque. And even though this is semi-translucent, it will eventually be opaque depending on how many layers you add. Just make sure you don't have a solid line. Unless you're intentional on doing that, composition-wise, you want to create nice eye flow. See how it's all different, but I've got a pattern coming down here, which I don't want. I want to keep the eye focused right up here. So I'll just change this a little bit. Oh, and to show you how to do that with that cosmetic sponge. So we could do this as well and just rotate, because you're going to use the corner of the brush, the corner of the paint, I should say. You're going to use the corner of the cosmetic sponge. Oh, it's been a long haul with these backgrounds. And of course I'm out of paint. So you can use the corners as your edges. Always add your paint dark to adding to light in very small increments. I've been doing this for a gazillion years. I know what I can get. It's harder to color mix when you don't know what the pigment is in the actual container. That's why I love the Traditions and the fluid acrylics from DecoArt, because they've got the pigment numbers written right on the bottle. So I know exactly what my color mixes are going to be like. Although when you're using the Americana and even the chalky finish, okay, you don't know what the pigment numbers is. But for the purposes of those paints, it doesn't matter. You're visual. You look at it. And this I know is a pink that's got some blue in it. Yeah, that's dry. And if you like working towards you, just start at the top and work down. And doing this in multiple layers makes it a little bit more realistic. Many thin layers is better than one heavy, thick layer. There we go. How easy was that? Oh, excuse me. I can actually start stenciling right now. This is the fun part. Watch, it's all fun. It's all fun. Let me just dry this because I don't want the stencil to stick to it. I am not going to need any more of those colors. And yes, I should take that paint, not waste it, and then put it into another journal. It's a time savings right now. I fold the palette paper in half and I put it over where chaos can't get to it. And then usually by the end of the session, after I've cleaned up, I can then open up the palette paper and just take whatever's there and put it down. That I got from Buck Paulson, one of my absolute favorite artists. He's a TV artist, my mentor. I've learned so much from him. Absolute wonderful guy. And he takes a lot of his palette, leftover palette paint, scrapes it, and creates paintings with that. There we go. Believe it or not, this piece is almost done. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Gorgeous. Now these are available in the 8-ounce jars and in the small bottles. That's this size. As I empty these out, I am going to be going to the small bottles. They're just a little bit easier for me to handle. And it's just, you know, you get older, having to stir the paint. I prefer shaking the bottle. There are some colors, though, that will stay in the large because I use them so often. But I can always squeeze them out into squeeze them out in smaller bottles. What an idiot I am. I don't need to go to smaller bottles. It's more economical doing it this way. And if you find that your paints, because if you use for a large project, they dry out a little bit, just add a little bit of distilled water and you'll be fine. Our stencil. So I'm going to be creating the flowers now with this, and I'm going to be working right to left so I don't overlap, and I'm not creating the flowers like this because it's just going to be funny. So if I take, let me take a little round brush. If I take this little round brush, little number 4 round with water, a little bit of paint. If I think I want to put a flower here, flower here, flower here, flower here. So let's try that. So where am I? How close did I get? I missed one. Yeah, the other one's right under here, but where could I do something else with it? Just wipe that off. Right there. That one. I want to make sure that they're not perfectly spaced apart. So I'm going to take a 1/2-inch stencil brush. And you can take a palette knife and scoop the paint out. And paper towel. I do want this to be fairly opaque. And I lied. I'm just going to be moving across. I want that to be in the middle. As long as you use the paint dry, you're going to be fine. Make sure I've got those distressed edges as well. I want the dot to be in the center. That's just going to let me do this without getting a perfectly even flower. That one will have to be, let me make that one a little bit higher. Hope the camera's not shaking. So the flower up here. Let's use this way. Sorry about that interruption. Mia decided she wanted to protect me from the person, I don't know, getting off the bus 2 blocks up. So I can come back now, and these stencils are very easy to match. I can come in and add another layer. Whoopsie. And that one was there as well. One I'm going to move down. no paint on the back side. That's the beauty with this paint. It's so thick. I want a fairly opaque coverage, but now which one is this one? 1, 2, 3. I only use 4 stencils, which means that one's this one. I want a fairly opaque coverage, and I made a boo-boo on this one. I ran it right off the page, but it doesn't matter. I'm likely going to be putting tape around the edges anyways, and this one I actually turned. What was I saying? I want a fairly opaque coverage. And when it actually comes to creating the artwork, I may actually come back in with more of this, or maybe just use my fingers and rub. I'm missing a flower. I'm missing a flower. How about we put one right here? Look and see if there's a pattern with one that I haven't used. If I put a flower, one way up here. Let's see if I can do this where I won't have to do this one. And let's do this one. Aha. And one final one right up here. And I picked this color because it's complementary to green. It's opposite on the color wheel. So it would pop in the same respect. Because the blue has a little bit of green in it, it would do the same thing. So that takes care of that. So let's close that off. And you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to do the splatters first. I forgot to do the splatters. Okay. Forgot to do the splatter, so this will be interesting. This will be interesting. Microscopic amounts of sap green and cobalt turquoise hue. I know what I can use. I can use little bitty bits of paper towel. And the stencil wasn't quite, when I put it on uneven on purpose. So if we get some washi paint and just tap this in the sky area. You know what, it doesn't really matter if it goes on the flowers because we can always add more color later. And then now with the green will be a little bit harder because it's so dark. Excuse me. I was contemplating using modeling paste on this as well. You know what would look really nice? Little white flecks. What I'm going to do, I'm going to get a baby wipe. Let's see if I can get this. Oh, that's so much better. Oh yeah, that works fine. If you get a little bit on there, it doesn't matter. I'll do the same thing with the blue. A little bit of water. Blue. Oh yeah, this looks much more natural. Could have even painted the flowers with finger paint. But typically the splatter is done, then the flowers are put on. I want to try this with white paint. Titanium white. I want the paint to be opaque. Just a little bit. Rinse the brush. The bigger the brush, the bigger the splatters, and also the more watery the paint. There we go. Love that. And that's specifically for texture. Visual texture, some interest. The accents. The white is actually quite pretty on the flowers, but I want this to be just the chalky paint because I'm going to be doing some writing. There we go, guys. There's only one thing missing. The stems! The stems are missing. A script brush. I will tell you right now, I am not very good at this. My script work sucks. So let's start from the bottom. And you can sketch it out first if it helps. I just want to take a pencil and just draw with a ruler. And I am just going to make them straight. You can overlap them. I want these to be very light because I don't know what else I'm going to be doing on here. Creating like a little triangle, which is what would typically hold the flower. This one's going to be hard. I have to come through here. You would not believe how tense I am right now. But you know what's the worst that could happen? Who cares? Who cares? This is not going into a museum. This is just a background. I wanted to have fun. This is actually a lot better than I thought it would be. And once we get this last stem in, we're finished. A little triangle here. There we go. That's it, you guys. That is done. So now this background is prepared. This is the inside back cover, and this will contain little notes and stories of my whole progress when it comes to creating the art portion. what I've learned and what I've experienced. And, I will definitely make note of all the new friends that I've made during this project. And it's going to be all the things in here. And I'll also do some embellishing and create some additional things. I was thinking dark paint coming in here, creating little flowers. That's for the art portion. So we'll leave it at that. So I hope that you enjoyed this very simple, yet I wouldn't call it dramatic, but knowing what this page is going to contain at the very, very end of the next phase is extremely important to me. So I hope that this inspires you to create the same type of inside back cover or just a page by itself. So let me know in the comments below what you thought and different ideas of how you would have done things differently. And if you've created a version of this, please send me a picture. You can either email it to me or share it in the private Facebook group. Links to both can be found on my website at artplace.ca. So if you're enjoying the Book of Background series, we're coming right to the very end now. Give me a thumbs up to let me know that you like it. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, because even though the Book of Backgrounds itself is coming to an end, there's now the second phase, plus I have a whole bunch of other unrelated Bob and Doug videos that I'm doing. All right, so I'm going to clean up, you guys, and the next video, I believe I'm working on the covers, the outside covers. Oh, yay, then we're done. All right, you guys, I will see you in that video. Until then, stay inspired.